Bitcoin and crypto taking a little bit of a dip right now on the daily chart. You can see Bitcoin consolidating, nice red candle. I'm telling you right now, red candles, even in bull markets, even where we are right now, we want to see red candles. We have to see consolidation on these Bitcoin charts, on the crypto charts. But I want to revisit historical data, cycles past, in terms of the exact move that Bitcoin is making right now. And is it mimicking it? Is it normal? Is this behavior what we want to see? I want to give you an exact example in this video. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, let's jump into it. Before we even do that, can we just talk about something? The move that's happening in crypto, and I know it feels after that crazy bear market we just went through, it feels like we should be, it's time. It's time for the bulls. But this move in crypto that's been happening recently, this upside move, this is happening earlier this cycle around, meaning we're not even at Bitcoin halving yet. We don't get this move that we've seen right now until after Bitcoin halving. And it seems to be the case that it's the Bitcoin ETF that's playing a really big role. So this is from a Bitwise relationship manager. A lot of the advisors we support at banks and broker dealers are complaining they don't have access to the Bitcoin ETF yet. They want it. So there's still people waiting to get access to step into that Bitcoin ETF door. A huge unlock is coming. Here's Will over here on X. Roughly 70%, and this is just going to illustrate the Bitcoin supply shock. And then we're going to talk about the charts and why consolidation, not a big deal and normal. Roughly 70% of Bitcoin supply still hasn't moved in at least a year, while ETFs are seeing $500 million of inflows a day. Don't need to be an economics PhD to know what's set up to happen next. And then lastly, everybody, over-the-counter desks are getting drained of their coins. The voracious demand from ETFs is going to lead to an explosion in price pretty soon. There isn't much on exchange for sale. We go to the zoomed out Bitcoin charts. Let's pause the Bitcoin ETF narrative and the fact that that's even in play right now, that's playing into the supply shock of Bitcoin. Let's pause that. Let's put it on the shelf. With where Bitcoin is in these crypto cycles, we have the Bitcoin halving coming up. And we've just survived an incredible bear market. And in cycles past, at this Bitcoin halving, this is when supply shock kind of starts presenting itself to the Bitcoin and crypto markets in general. Every halving, right? So here we are right now. We're in this environment, the Bitcoin halving, is essentially weeks away at this point. And we have the Bitcoin ETF truly just funneling right into the story of Bitcoin supply shock. Now, I want to talk about, obviously we're tracking, we've been tracking how this weekly candle closes within the bull market doors of Bitcoin, because that's where it is right now. The swing high of the bull market, the last bull market high, the bear market low. It's that Fibonacci retracement, this green channel. I call it the Bitcoin bull market doors. You see these yellow rectangles. That's the area Bitcoin, after every halving, has broken through, and that sets off this parabolic phase for all of crypto, not just Bitcoin. So you can see it's happening earlier this year where we're actually breaking into this area prior to the halving. But if we start zooming in, the weekly candle is important to me. I really would like to see Bitcoin close a weekly candle above the 618 line of the bull market doors, of the Fibonacci range. So that's around $48,000. Anything can happen in the next 1 day, 8 hours, but that's what I'll be tracking on the short term. But really on the short term, going to the daily, this is what it looks like. The daily chart, 2024 bull market doors being tested. This is what we're looking like. So far, we had Bitcoin break through the 618, the bottom area of this range, and actually wicked real quick back down to test that area. So it tested that area, which is something we want to see, continue to upside, and now we're kind of cruising to the downside. I want to revisit some data from cycles past, right? So here's Bitcoin. I just want to make a note, overbought on the RSI, slower moving momentum oscillator. But I want to illustrate why that's not really too big of a deal when you're in a bull environment. So let's first go back to 2020, the last time Bitcoin broke through the bull market doors. And just to give you a sense, on the zoomed out charts, we're here. Is what we're going to zoom in on the daily chart. So looking at 2020, check it out. You can see Bitcoin, interacting with the 618 line of the bull market doors, even just testing it briefly and continuing to the upside. But before breaking out to the upside, what happened? Consolidation. Here's a big red candle right there. what I want to point out is just in this entire move through, right? It obviously took some time on the daily chart, but check out the oscillator, the RSI, as that move was happening. Bitcoin was overbought the entire time. Obviously, consolidations along the way, right? Even with this red candle bringing Bitcoin back down right to around the 70 line on the RSI, but pretty much in overbought the entire time. And then it pops to the outside, up to upside, out of the channel, and then boom, revisits the 786 line. Such a good technical move in 2020. We go back to the daily chart right now. You can see the story is playing out. So we have a daily candle right now. I want to keep an eye on it, and I'm very curious to see what happens with the RSI here on Bitcoin. And namely, the most important thing that I should say to the downside would be the 618 line, right? So obviously curious to see what happens with the RSI on the consolidation of Bitcoin, the momentum of Bitcoin. But if Bitcoin did fall, what happens at the 618 line of these bull doors? That is probably the most critical question. So that was 2020. Let's go to 2017. Look at the volatility in 2017. Bitcoin quite quickly breaking to the upside of the bull market doors, and then boom, right to the downside. Now, this is, I think, the one time where Bitcoin, when it broke through the lower high Fibonacci, it actually fell all the way back down and below the 618 line, falling outside very briefly. And what I want to point out in that regard is if we go and we zoom out on the weekly chart and we go back to the 2017 move when that happened, let's zoom in a little bit. I just want to point out what Bitcoin did, though. It did fall to the downside below the doors, but it saw support just above the 20-week moving average. And that's that area, right? So no matter what happens with Bitcoin zoomed out right now, because, you know, we're obviously going to be zooming in and we're talking about the zoomed in daily, but no matter what happens on the macro, it's the 20-week moving average that is the most critical, I would say. Obviously, we want to see Bitcoin just continue to the upside, but pulling into the 20-week moving average every cycle has been normal for Bitcoin, even in bullish environments. Right now, it's around $40,000. So I just want to point that out. And then if this even happened and Bitcoin starts retracing to that area, we're in this environment where the Bitcoin supply shock really is happening. I don't even know if Bitcoin would even retrace that low. But that's something to point out when we're really digging into the 2017 data, what was happening there on the weekly. But you can see Bitcoin made the move through and above, retraced back down. But we go back to 2013. Check it out. So 2013, also a quick move through the bull market doors. You see that range, the Fibonacci range. I mean, almost green candle every single day, but one red candle at that last move through the 786, a brief consolidation to the 20-day. But check out the RSI. In overbought pretty much the entire move to the upside, obviously, and thereafter, as Bitcoin continued just to go parabolic, in overbought. This just gives you a sense of, in a bull market, in a bull environment, it's not so predictable, the RSIs, right? Bitcoin can very much hang out and overbought for quite some time, months, right? This is a daily chart, but this is overbought in January, still overbought over here in April. So it can just straight up, especially in a bull environment, a supply shock environment, Bitcoin can really just hang out in overbought area. So we go back now to right now. This is the move playing out. We're in one simple daily candle. We've seen the volatility in cycles past at this moment, and all we can do now is just track the areas that we're watching for. That is to say, the 786 breakout out of the doors to the upside if Bitcoin can continue higher, and then support to the downside. 618 support to the downside just above $48,000. All the while watching what happens with these moving averages, because Bitcoin on the daily in bull environments, we just always want to see continued higher highs and higher lows at the 50 and 20 moving average area, right? So let's see what Bitcoin does as it consolidates and these moving averages pull into Bitcoin, potentially maybe a confluent support right around the 618 line at the bottom of this range. But again, it's all just a matter of watching this and how Bitcoin interacts in this range day by day. This is something we wait years for, right? Every cycle, this move happens, and it takes just waiting through a whole bull market and then a bear market to get to this moment. So the weekly chart, I would say, once again, just want to end with this. The weekly chart, very important to see how this closes in the next 1 day, 8 hours. Right now, you can see that 618 line just above 48,000. That's what I'll be watching in the short term. And obviously, kind of zoomed in, checking out how Bitcoin just interacts on the daily chart compared to those previous cycles. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. I appreciate you. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, turn notifications on. Things are just getting started, I think, in terms of the bull market. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.